Gorev milach machagut akohirlik is more an undoing ve anscheinend you. It's a the hard part of my speech is truly over. It's an honor to be here today. And we do recognize that this is the honor that is rarely given to a visitor or a foreigner, and we appreciate it very, very much, believe us. It is yet another reaffirmation of the support that we received from Irish people, from you, from everybody who we've met in Ireland during this last horrible 111 days of war. Actually, it has been 111 days today, but believe us, for Ukrainians all over the world, it has been like a one horrible nightmare, never-ending day. And each morning we read the news, no matter where we are, and it feels like this day continues. Just yesterday night, three more civilians have been killed by Russia's forces. One boy who was 6 years old was killed in Donbass in his own bed while asleep in his own room, just by a Russian missile. Yesterday night, when I was here already, the region of Dnipro, which is an eastern part of the country, was shelled by Russian artillery, which is called Hurricane, and this is the region where my grandmother lives. And she refused to evacuate. Fortunately, she is well, and she was not hit. Her house is okay. But this is a horrible reality which I could never imagine that would be going on. You know that at 4 a.m. in the morning, 111 days ago, on the 21st of February, when the war has started and when the Russian aggression has started, I was in my apartment in the center of Kiev. And what shrunk me the most and what gave me the most fear was not that there were explosions on top of my head, but actually that this feeling was horribly familiar to something which I've heard from my grandmother when she was talking about the beginning of the Second World War when I was a kid. Because she was 5 when the Second World War broke down, and I can tell you honestly, I never really listened to her stories back then, because I thought that her stories about the atrocities which were committed during the Second World War had no place in my world, had no place in my future, had no place in our modern century in the middle of Europe. I didn't really listen. And I couldn't imagine that in our modern age of Geneva Conventions, international humanitarian law, Budapest Memorandum, drones and cyber warfare and satellites, we would actually have a dictator ordering to kill and target specifically civilians in Europe, to target kids, to target children, to bomb hospitals, kindergartens, and just normal residential areas. This I was not ready for psychologically, even though we knew that the war could be there, we were not ready to see that. And I'm still not ready psychologically to understand that 30 kilometers from my apartment where I am in Kiev, in the center of Kiev, in Bucha and Borodyanka, because it's only half an hour away, we would find mass graves of kids and women who were raped, who were tortured by Russian soldiers, who were burned then, and who were tried, to be buried in the mass graves. And this is the reality that I still have trouble understanding in our modern world. I think the politic of appeasement actually failed when the first missile hit a maternity hospital wing in Mariupol. And we had to understand that. Now, I think that Putin is going even further because he's actually planning to starve to death a number of continents in the world in order to reestablish his so-called Russian empire. And I think that we are not going to allow for that to happen. This is something that puts politics of imperialism and colonialism to a whole new other level, which we have never seen before. Because Putin and his soldiers are right now mining the Black Sea and blocking, actually, Ukraine to take our export of grain and food to other countries all over the world, to African countries, to Middle East countries, to EU countries. And right now, the UN has told us that the politics of starvation and the possible food crisis and famine could be there for more than 1 billion people in the world. When food is used as a weapon, I have almost no words to describe that. Unfortunately, Irish people know very well that food could be used as a weapon. Unfortunately, Ukrainian people know too well that food could be used as a weapon, because we will be commemorating this autumn 90 years of man-made hunger that killed almost 1 million Ukrainians back in the 1930s. And I think that we should make sure together that this is absolutely the last time any dictator in the world, any country in the world, uses food as weapons. We cannot allow that to happen. But Putin actually made a mistake. I think he completely misjudged Ukrainians because we are a nation that you can take a lot from us and you can take a lot away from us, but you cannot take from us the right to govern ourselves. And I think that here we are a stubborn nation as much as Irish nation is. Here, like you quoted the famous speech of President Kennedy here in Ireland a long time ago. I will actually quote the poet that he quoted back then, John Boyle O'Reilly, that said that the world is very large, but the world is very small when your enemy is loose on the other side. Ukrainian world has become very, very small during those last 111 days. And the world has shrunk for every mother that had to spend a night in a basement with her child when there were bombings outside in Bucha, Borodyanka, and Mariupol. The world appeared to have shrunk for every woman who kissed goodbye to a soldier going to war on every railway station in Ukraine. It appears that the world has shrunk for every family that fled Ukraine with just one bag of clothes to go abroad, to go to Ireland as well, and not knowing when they will be able to come back. But it also feels that, yes, the world has become very small for Ukraine, but it also feels that the world has actually opened up a little bit, and it had opened up together with your help, with love and kindness and help and solidarity that I can tell you honestly we've never seen during all of the history of Ukraine. And this is incredibly inspirational to see that. And we are inspired by the way that you opened up your hearts and your doors in Ireland to every refugee, to everybody who needed help. You've abolished visas on the first week of the war for Ukrainians, and believe us, Ukrainians know that. And we are very much inspired by your history, by your strengths, but how you still remained so humane during all of those dark times, because this is difficult to do for us sometimes. And we are very inspired by this ability and the combination in your character of hope and bravery and optimism. And it gives us a lot of strength. Your friendship and generosity, believe us, will never be forgotten in Ukraine. And Ireland has literally set an example of a very high standard of moral leadership for any other country in the world, and in particular to any other country and nation in Europe to follow. And we really ask you to push for that, to push even further. We hope that Europe and European Union would follow on your high standard of moral leadership and example. And we hope that European Union would give us, in the next number of days, a candidacy status for the EU, because in our opinion, the future of a strong European Union really depends on this vital decision. Ukraine will win this war. Together with you, I'm sure that we will win this fight of freedom against slavery, of light against darkness, and of our common democratic future. In Ukraine, we say Slava Ukraini, but today I really want to say Aira Abu.